Is it just me? Or is it getting crazier out there?
So I went to watch Joker this weekend, and it was really good. Joaquin Phoenix should at least be nominated for an Oscar, if not win an Oscar. He absolutely took this movie, put it on his shoulders, and ran with it. After watching the movie, I came back home. I looked at Rotten Tomatoes, expecting to see a lot of critical praise for the film, especially after watching reviews from Jeremy Jahns and Chris Stuckman, who both love the movie. But what did I find? 69%. 69% fresh, granted, for a movie that I felt was probably one of the better ones of the year. So I went back and gathered a list of movies that were highly anticipated for 2019 and looked at their tomato scores. I got a list here of the movies that ranked above Joker and just below Joker. They are The Farewell, Toy Story 4, Booksmart, Avengers Endgame, Us, How to Train Your Dragon 3, Spider-Man Far From Home, John Wick 3, Shazam, Rocketman, Hustlers, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, The Lego Movie 2, Downton Abbey, Ad Astra, Midsommar, Long Shot, Late Night, Captain Marvel, The Angry Birds Movie 2, Happy Death Day to You, and then finally Joker. And just below it, Pokemon, Detective Pikachu, and Fast and Furious Hobbs and Shaw at 67%.
Okay, let's start with Toy Story 4. Disney's attempt to sell some new merch by extending a series that was perfectly capped with Toy Story 3. 97%. Please. How to Train Your Dragon 3. Decent movie. Plot and story were there. Do I remember it? Was I discussing it afterwards? No. 91%. Shazam, Rocketman, Hustlers, I didn't see any of them. I heard they were pretty good. I heard J-Lo's performance in Hustlers was generating some Oscar buzz, so I'll have to take your word for it, Rotten Tomatoes. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Yes, a solid 85%, it was. It should really be ranked a little higher. Again, a movie that tops a lot of others above it on the list. Ad Astra. I read a lot of the articles from critics who were underwhelmed by the Joker, and a lot of the criticism was that the movie stole plot lines and styles from other movies, but didn't execute them nearly as well. Most of those articles usually reference Scorsese's Taxi Driver and King of Comedy. If you want to talk about a movie that stole a lot of influence from other space films such as 2001: A Space Odyssey, The Martian, and Interstellar, but didn't execute them nearly as well, look no further than Ad Astra, a film I actually liked. But if we're gonna be that way, then let's be that way. Spider-Man Far From Home and Captain Marvel. I'm gonna roll these two together, even though Spider-Man was by far the superior film. Spider-Man at least had a compelling story, a good performance from villain Jake Gyllenhaal, but 90%? John Wick 3, impressive film, great stunts, typical storyline. 90%. Joker is currently sandwiched between Happy Death Day to You and Angry Birds, who form the top bun of the sandwich, and Pokemon and Fast and Furious, who form the bottom bun. I haven't watched any of those movies, but I can only assume they are nowhere near as good as Joker. This brings us to Avengers Endgame at 94%. I'm not going to knock Avengers Endgame, it was a spectacle that could only be brought together after 10 years worth of story, plot, and anticipation. Honestly, we may not see anything like it again, because once Marvel completes its next phase, there will be expectations on the concluding film and Endgame to compare it to. In the same way, I feel Joker is one of those movies, along the lines of the original Iron Man and Batman Begins, a movie that will have plenty of films following suit, trying to copy its gritty style and tone. This is why the reviews of the film bother me, and I don't think any other film on this list faced reviews of this nature, where the actual aspects of the film are not in question, but the message of the film is. How often is it that a movie sparks this much discussion? Isn't that what art is supposed to do? Obviously, everyone is going to have a different interpretation of the film and look at it under their own light, and that's the beauty of film and art in general. But as a critic, just because you may not agree with what the film is presenting to you, that does not make it a bad film. The film does tackle tough themes such as healthcare and class warfare, and it is a difficult watch because of how good of a performance Joaquin Phoenix gives, and the tone that the score, cinematography, and direction sets, but it is supposed to be difficult. It accomplishes its goal.
Now, comparing movies based upon their tomato score on Rotten Tomatoes is no way to actually compare movies. I was just thinking because there were so many movies that ranked ahead of Joker based upon that tomato score, where the Joker should have easily fit in with those movies, or could have easily fit in with at least half of those movies. That's what was confusing me. Obviously, the best way to form an opinion on my movie is to go watch it yourself. And I'm not saying that those movies that earned 90% or 80% didn't deserve them. They were good movies. It's just that if those movies earned that score, then the Joker really should earn that score as well. I personally feel that it was a movie that ranks up there with the John Wicks and the Spider-Mans and the Captain Marvels, Avengers Endgame, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Ad Astra. It fits in with that group. It doesn't fit in between Happy Death Day to You and Angry Birds. What are your thoughts on some of the reviews you've read for the Joker? Joker? Does it actually deserve 69% on Rotten Tomatoes? And how do you feel about the film as a whole? Feel free to comment below, and thanks for watching.